Today's Tuesday tip is a triple threat. I've got 3 different techniques to teach you today. So we are going to learn how to speckle. We are going to learn how to color ribbon. And over here, we're going to learn how to do a little fun sponging to create a unique look on a stamp. Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad that you guys are joining me today for another Tuesday tip video. We've got 3 incredible techniques, 1 simple layout. I say we jump in and get started. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the cards today, and of course the technique. You can see I'm really focusing on just 1 layout, but we've got the 3 techniques. Let's start with this card here. And we don't need a lot to create the card. So I've got a Berry Burst card base that is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. 2 pieces of basic white. So this is for the inside of the card, 4 by 5 1/4. This is for my focal image, and that is a 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. The last thing I'm going to need are just some small pieces here of lemon lime twist. So I have a 2 by 3 1/2, and then this is just a little strip. It is 1/4 inch by 5 inches. By the way, friends, don't worry about writing any of those measurements down, because as always, I got a free download that goes along with the video. So you'll have all those measurements. You'll have the supply list, photos, and you'll even have a little QR code so you can come back and watch the video anytime you need. And if you'd like to order any of the supplies, guys, I've got a supply list right here. You can click on this image and it'll show you everything that we use. Guys, I do offer my downloads absolutely free. Many of you ask how you can support me in that. You can support me by placing an order. So if you're in the United States, guys, I would love to be your demonstrator. All right, with that, let's get to creating and work on our very first technique. I'm going to be using the stamp set Cheerful Daisies on today's card. This one's been one of my favorites for a while. We're actually going to focus on the solid image of the daisy, and this one we're going to be doing a little technique on. Before we start that, we're going to start with our ribbon coloring technique, because this technique needs a little drying time. I'm going to bring in a Berry Burst Dark Stampin' and Blend. Now I'm going to just simply take that blend. By the way, I'm going to hold it kind of flat here because I just want the side of the blend to touch that ribbon. I'm using, this is the black and white checkered. It's got a little vanilla in it, but look at that, not anymore. I've got maybe, what, about 4 inches. I'm going to check the other side. It looks like it looks pretty good, actually. Now, what I want to do at this point, I want this to dry. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it off to the side, and now we can continue working with our stamp set. When that's dry, we'll be ready to go. For our stamping, we're going to need a Daffodil Delight, a crushed curry, and a pecan pie ink pad. I'm going to start with this Daffodil Delight, and we're going to take that solid daisy, and I'm going to ink it up right there in Daffodil Delight. I've got a couple sponge daubers here, and that's what's going to give us a really great look to kind of give our daisies a little more texture. I've got a crushed curry that we are going to take my little crushed curry sponge dauber. I'm going to ink it up, and I'm just going to kind of dot, dot, dot right here in the middle. You don't want it to be too perfectly even. I'm going to bring in my cardstock. Let me show you what this is going to look like when we stamp it. I hope that you can see, you're kind of getting, these different colors there in the stamp. I'm going to bring in a pumpkin pie. I'm going to take another sponge dauber, and I'm going to ink it up in pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to give that a press right there in the middle. That is how we do this great sponging technique. All right, I'm just going to kind of get some of the ink off, and I'm going to repeat that. So there is my Daffodil Delight, again with my sponge dauber, just kind of staying right there in the center. And now I'm going to stamp right here. Again, just kind of getting that ink, any of that crushed curry, that's what we're trying to avoid, back in my Daffodil Delight. And we'll do this one more time. And of course, our pecan pie. So that's looking great. We're actually going to do this technique one more time right here on the inside of the card. All right, now it's time to add our speckle. So to do this speckle technique, we're going to use a water painter. Now, these come in a set of 3. I'm going to use the medium tip. So it's got a sharp tip on it, but this is the little bit thicker one. I'm coming back in with my pecan pie, and I'm simply going to create myself a little ink palette. See how I did that? Now, I have my water painter filled with rubbing alcohol. Doesn't matter the percentage. Here in America, we call it rubbing alcohol. But you can also use water. I like to use the rubbing alcohol because it dries a little faster. So either way you want to go, neither one is wrong. Now you can see here on the side of my brush, it says push. All right. I'm going to do that over my little ink palette here. And I'm just going to push until I see that alcohol. See how it's starting to drop out? That means my brush, it's good. It's wet. We want this really, really wet. You notice I have a big piece of copy paper underneath me. You can use some junk mail, whatever you got, but this can get a little messy. So I want you to be very cautious. The other thing I want you to make sure of is that you are kind of stepping far away because we don't want to splatter on our clothes. Please don't ask me how I know this. So what I'm going to do, I've got my brush here. I've got it about 4 inches away. I'm going to kind of put it here at an angle, all right? And I'm just going to go tap, tap, tap. And can you see how we're getting those great little speckles? So if you want them a little bit heavier, just make sure you've got extra alcohol or water in there. And you can see how they can come out a little bit bigger. So whatever way you want to go there. Now, let's say you didn't have water painters. Oh no, Connie, I can't do this technique. Yes, you can. Just use a paintbrush and dip it in water or rubbing alcohol and do this exact same technique. But don't you love the look of that splatter? Now that I'm done with this, I can simply run both of these under water and get that cleaned up in a jiffy. Let's go ahead and stamp our sentiments in Berry Burst. And I thought I'd make this into a birthday card. So, wishing you the brightest birthday. I will adhere this to the inside of my card. On that scrap of lemon lime twist, we'll stamp the sentiment again. And I'm going to bring in the Labeled with Love punch. And let's give that a quick little punch. And now we can put our card together. So I'm going to take my daisy focal image and I'm going to kind of put it up here in the upper left corner. We'll take that 1/4 inch strip that we had. I will adhere that right across the front. It is longer than what you need, but I sometimes find it a little bit easier to work with and just snip away any of the excess. Dimensionals really make this punch stand out. So we'll add 4 dimensionals here on the back. I'm simply going to add that right here to the card. And now let's check our ribbon. Yep, it's good and dry. I'm going to take that and just tie it in a knot. And I gave myself plenty, so if I didn't hit an edge, which I can see like right there, I didn't. You know, sometimes when you're working with those tail ends, it's a little hard to get the color right where you want it. Yep, I lost just a little bit there, and that's fine with me. We will take a mini glue dot. I'll press my knot right into the middle of that mini glue dot. We can add it right there. And we have one last thing to add to this card to make it amazing. I love these glossy dots. So I'm going to bring my take your pick tool. I'm going to use the smaller ones. And we're going to add 3 of our dots. And it's just kind of wherever you need to fill in. And you can see how it really just ties in the card. Friends, I just realized I was also going to stamp some daisies at the bottom of my card. Yeah, well, that's what happens sometimes when you're getting excited about creating a card. So I will tell you, stamping those flowers at the bottom really gave the card that extra touch. I just stamped this smaller daisy here in berry burst ink at the bottom of the card. Please forgive me for missing that. I'll make sure to get it right on the next card. So with that, let's move on to card number 2. Don't forget about your free download. I'd love for you to have this. So when you're ready to recreate these cards, you'll have everything you need right there. Friends, you can find this free download at simplysimplestamping.com or just look down in the YouTube description for the direct link. I really loved how this card came out. So we're going to be using some lemon lime twist and some pretty peacock together. We're going to be doing that speckling. We're going to be doing that sponging technique. And of course, we will color ribbon. Now, friends, this card has all the same measurements as our previous card. The only thing that changed are the colors. So again, pretty peacock and pool party are my cardstock colors. My stamp set is a new stamp set to Stampin' Up! Called You Are Beautiful. And I just have to tell you, I loved everything in this. I loved the sentiments and I loved these images. But first, let's color our ribbon so it has time to dry. I've got the dark pool party Stampin' Blend, and I'm just going to color in one side, flip it over. If it needs any more, it might not. And once again, we're going to let that dry. Now, because I don't want to make that mistake again, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my images down here at the bottom. So I've got a smaller leafy image, and we'll stamp that in Pretty Peacock. So let's just add some of these. I want it to have a real random feel down here, so we'll kind of bring those a little bit of everywhere. All right, before I put this away, I'm going to be using it again, so don't let that get too far away from you. Let's go ahead and bring in our large image and a lemon lime twist ink pad. Now you notice my Pretty Peacock is still out because yes, we are going to use that. I'm going to ink up the large image here in the lemon lime twist, and I have a sponge dauber here in the Pretty Peacock. So I'll just add a little ink to that. And for this, I want to kind of focus on can you see, it's just kind of at the base of the leaves. I don't want to get too crazy. Basically just kind of keeping it where it's going right up the middle. Use a really soft touch too. We want this to have a nice soft look. I'm going to stamp that right there on my basic white cardstock. Remember that was a 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, and there we go. See how we got that great two-toned image? We're going to be doing that again, so I want to go ahead and make sure this stamp is good and clean, because this time we're going to ink it up in the lemon lime twist, and I'm just going to kind of hit just those little berries and just a little bit of the leaves there. And we're going to put this at the bottom of our 4 by 5 1/4. Isn't it so pretty? All right, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment here on the inside of the card. Make today amazing. We're going to speckle on it. Now, let's bring in our clear block and our Pretty Peacock. We're going to do some Pretty Peacock speckle. We're going to bring in our water painter. And remember, we want that really nice and juicy. So for this one, I'm going to add my speckle right down here. So tap, tap, tap. There we go. I think that's perfect. Let's bring in my focal image and tap, tap. And I managed to keep it off my clothes. It's a miracle. All right. In Pretty Peacock, You Are a Shining Light will come in with our punch. And for this one, I'm going to punch a little more over to the right side. And I wanted to add this image one more time, but boy, that would be dark. So I'm going to stamp off once. I'm going to stamp off twice. I'm going to stamp off 3 times. On the 4th time, I'm going to add that right there to my sentiment. By the way, you could also speckle a little bit more if you'd like, because there's really no such thing as too much speckle, just like there's not enough too much bling, right? Okay, we will trim off our excess here. I'm adding the sentiment with Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm now ready to take that ribbon and tie it in a knot. By the way, I leave it on the spool. Really no reason to take it off. It kind of saves me on my ribbon. So we'll trim that down with a mini glue dot. I'm going to add that here to my sentiment. And now some more of my glossy dots. And there we go. Another really great card. And with that, we have speckled, we have sponged, and we have colored ribbon. So 3 fun techniques for your Tuesday tip today. Guys, give these cards a try. They are just so beautiful and oh so easy. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If you enjoyed the video, I would love a little thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. And if you have not subscribed, why not click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and YouTube can let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. We'd love to have you here. That's all for me, everybody. Make it a fantastic day. Go create something amazing and send it to a friend. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.